A velvet box, a diamond ring, a man on one knee. It's the classic scene of love played millions of times all across the world. The diamond isn't just a gem, it's a promise, a forever. But here's the twist. Diamonds are not forever, at least not in the way we think. They're not rare, they're not priceless. They're not even the most beautiful of gems on earth. Emeralds are rarer, rubies shine brighter, sapphires carry more color. So why is it diamonds and diamonds alone that became the universal symbol of love? The answer lies not in geology but in power, not in nature but in monopoly, not in romance but in manipulation. And at the heart of this story is a single family, the Oppenheimers. For nearly a century, the dynasty controlled De Beers, the company that held a stranglehold over 90% of world's diamonds. They weren't just selling stones, they were controlling emotions. This is not just a family story, it's a story of global power. How a boy from Frankfurt rose from a desk job to rule the world's diamond trade. So buckle up, because this is not just a story about diamonds. This is the story of how one family turned a common rock into the most powerful illusion humanity has ever believed. In the quiet streets of this German city, a boy named Ernest Oppenheimer was born. His family were Jewish merchants, modest, hardworking, not aristocrats. His father, Edward, sold cigars. They lived comfortably but without luxury. Nothing in Ernest's childhood suggested the giant empire he would one day command. At 17 years old, restless and ambitious, Ernest left school to join a diamond brokerage in London. He began at the very bottom, as an office boy. His duties were simple: run errands, fetch ledgers, sweep floors. But Ernest was observant. He studied how senior brokers evaluated stones, how buyers and sellers communicated, and how prices were never just about geology but about psychology. This was Ernest's first realization. The value of diamond was not in the stone but in the story. By 1902, his employers saw his sharpness and sent him to Kimberley, South Africa, then the epicenter of the global diamond rush. Kimberley was unlike anything Ernest has ever seen. At its heart was the massive Big Hole, the world's largest hand-dug excavation. Thousands of workers worked in the brutal heat, digging earth and stone, hoping to find flashes of light hidden in the soil. Ernest arrived not as a prospector, but a trader and representative of his London firm. Yet he quickly rose beyond his role. He built networks, joined social clubs, married into a well-connected family, and by the age of 29, he had become the mayor of Kimberley. It was an astonishing rise. A foreigner barely out of his 20s now held political authority in the diamond capital of the world. When World War I erupted in 1914, Europe got into chaos, but Ernest remained focused on opportunities. In 1917, he made his boldest move. With support from JP Morgan and Company in New York and the wealthy London investors, he founded the Anglo-American Corporation of South Africa. The name was no accident. Anglo for Britain, American for Wall Street, and Corporation for African Resources. It symbolized a transatlantic alliance to mine Africa's riches. Anglo-American quickly became a powerhouse in gold, coal, and platinum. But Ernest's eyes was focused on one prize over all: De Beers Consolidated Mines. De Beers had been founded in the late 1800s by Cecil Rhodes, the empire builder whose name would become synonymous with colonial ambitions. By the 1920s, the De Beers were already giants of diamonds, dominating global supply. But Ernest, with Anglo-Americans' growing power and backed by the Rothschild Bank of London, guided himself into the company's leadership. In 1929, he achieved the unimaginable. He became the chairman of De Beers. The boy from Frankfurt, once sweeping floors in the offices of London, was now the undisputed ruler of the world's diamonds. But with power came a dangerous problem. De Beers' vaults were overflowing. Mines across Africa were producing diamonds at unprecedented rates. If the world discovered that diamonds were not rare, the illusion would shatter. Prices would collapse. Now Ernest came up with a solution that was about to change history. The genius of the Oppenheimers was not in discovering diamonds but in controlling them. Through De Beers, Ernest established the Central Selling Organization, the CSO. It wasn't just a trading body. It was a cartel. The CSO planned in a strategic way. All diamond producers were required to sell their stones to De Beers. De Beers purchased, sorted and stored all these diamonds in their London vaults. Only carefully measured amounts were released, ensuring a stable, artificially scarce market. If a rival miner refused to join, De Beers retaliated. They would dump similar stones into the market, crashing prices until the rival went bankrupt or surrendered to the cartel. By the 1930s, De Beers controlled nearly 90% of world's diamond supply. But controlling supply wasn't enough. The Oppenheimers needed to create desires. In 1938, Ernest's son, Harry Oppenheimer, turned to advertising. He hired the New York agency N.W. Ayer and Son to rescue the diamond market, which had went down during the Great Depression. The agency crafted a campaign that would become legendary. In 1947, copywriter Frances Garetti penned the line, "A diamond is forever." This slogan reshaped human culture. Hollywood films showed glittering diamond proposals. Photographs of celebrities flaunting rings filled magazines. Advertisements declared that a man's love would only be proven by the size of the diamonds he bought. The results were staggering. In 1939, only 10% of American brides received a diamond engagement ring. By the 1980s, the number went over 80%. The Oppenheimers had done something extraordinary. They didn't just sold diamonds, they had manufactured the very tradition of diamond engagement. It was more than marketing, it was a cultural engineering. The campaign didn't stop in the United States. De Beers expanded its influence globally. In Japan, where diamonds had no cultural significance, De Beers launched its campaign in the 1960s. Within 20 years, over half of the Japanese brides were wearing diamond rings. In China, after the economic reforms of the 1980s, De Beers poured millions into advertising. By the 2000s, China had become one of the fastest growing diamond markets. Diamonds were no longer just gems, they were symbols, rituals, obligations, and behind it all, the Oppenheimers pulled the string. Ernest Oppenheimer died in 1957, but the empire didn't die with him. His son Harry Oppenheimer was ready to inherit the crown. Harry, taking control over De Beers and Anglo-American, expanded the empire into gold, platinum, uranium, and coal. Harry was more than just a businessman. He was a political force. In South Africa, where racial segregation and oppression defined daily life, Harry protested himself as a critic of the regime. He funded the Progressive Party, which opposed racism. He gave speeches abroad calling for reform. Yet at the same time, his company thrived under racism. Black miners were restricted by law to low wages, dangerous work, and compound living conditions. Harry's paradox was clear. Abroad, he was praised as a liberal reformer. At home, his wealth depended on a system of exploitations. His influence was so vast that journalists called him the uncrowned king of South Africa. Governments feared him, opposition parties quoted him, and his empire seemed untouchable. By the 1990s, Harry passed the reins to his son, Nicky Oppenheimer. Nicky inherited not just wealth but responsibility for the family's empire. But the world had changed. The monopoly was cracking. Russia's Alrosa emerged as a competitor. New Canadian mines refused to sell through De Beers. The internet exposed the once secret pricing. Worst of all, the scandal of conflict diamonds or blood diamonds erupted. In Sierra Leone, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, rebel groups sold diamonds to fund wars. These diamonds made their way into the global supply chain. De Beers denied complicity, but critics argued that their near-global dominance over diamonds cannot be ignored. The outrage was global. In 2003, the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme was launched to stem the flow of conflict diamonds. For the Oppenheimers, the writings was on the wall. The age of total monopoly was ending. In 2003, Nicky made a dramatic decision. He sold the family's 40% stake in De Beers to Anglo American for $5.1 billion. For the first time in centuries, the Oppenheimers no longer controlled the global diamonds. When the Oppenheimers sold their stakes of De Beers to the Anglo-American, many believed that the dynasty was finished. But the family simply pivoted. Today, their fortune is estimated at $8 to $9 billion. Their businesses include the Stockdale Street Capital, which is their private investment office, Fireblade Aviation, which is a luxury private aviation company, and conservation projects, most popularly the Tavalu Kalahari Reserve, which is South Africa's largest private game reserve. Ironically, the family that once mined gems out of Africa's soil now represents itself as the guardians of its wildlife, and yet their cultural legacy remains unshakable. Every engagement ring, every jewelry store, every diamond advertisement carries the invisible signature of the Oppenheimer dynasty. Diamonds are not rare. They are not eternal. They are not even priceless. But for nearly a century, the Oppenheimers made us believe that they were. Even after stepping away, the illusion that they created lives on. So the next time you see a sparkling diamond, remember you are not looking at a gemstone. You are looking at the legacy of a dynasty that convinced the world to equate a common gemstone with eternal love. And if one family could manipulate something as personal as love, what else in our world today is being shaped by forces that we never see?